I've been a professional internet marketer for most of my life, and my job is to take a message and get it in front of as many people as possible through the internet, YouTube, Facebook, social media. I feel like my job is to use the skills that I have developed over the years to bring the plight of the children of the Dominican Republic onto the screens of as many people as I possibly can. The fact that you're watching this video right now is a good indication that I have done my job at least up to this point. Now what needs to happen is we need to move into the next phase together, and that is the fundraising phase. And our goal for 2017 is to raise enough money through campaigns exactly like the one that you're viewing right now to produce a full 90-minute documentary on the sex trade and human trafficking in the Dominican Republic, especially as it relates to the children of that country. And this is the point where we have to have your help. We have to have people who are interested in being the voice for children who have no voice to step up and say, this is not acceptable. We're going to do whatever we can do to make sure that as many children as possible are able to have as normal a childhood as possible. And in order to do that, we need partners. We need people to help finance this program. And that's the reason that you're watching this video today, because we need your help. We need you to stand with us so that we can all stand against human trafficking. The Dominican Republic is a beautiful tropical island located in the Caribbean between Cuba and Puerto Rico. It has some of the most exquisite beaches and blue waters of anywhere you could ever imagine. But the children of the Dominican Republic are under attack. They're under attack from the seedy, dark side of this island. The Dominican Republic is the fourth largest country in the world when it comes to human trafficking and sexual exploitation of minors. In 2012, Rexanne and I were in the Dominican Republic, and she'd expressed an interest in finding a local hospital or orphanage so that she could spend some of her time working with the underprivileged children in that area.
If I knew then what I know now, I think I would have been a lot more frightened. The devil is alive and well, and I think he lives in the Dominican Republic. He's certainly put in a lot of time and effort into the destruction of these people.
And it was through this visit that we happened to meet a pastor who was struggling to try and get a children's ministry program started.
When you look at all the beauty in the Dominican Republic, it's really hard to imagine that there's so much darkness enveloping the country. I think it's really the worst kind of evil, taking away the innocence of children, taking them captive. They lose hope. Exploitation, human trafficking, the commercial sex industry, these people, these children are turned into slaves and forced to do the unthinkable. Child exploitation in ways we can't even imagine. It's horrific and unacceptable to me that 1 in 4 children are being prostituted on the beaches and streets of the Dominican Republic. It hurts my heart. I cry for these people that I probably never even know.
We started out doing clothing and food drives. We would move all of the furniture out of our living room, and the church ladies would come over and they'd set up these big giant tables, and they would have clothes all over the place, and they'd be sorting them out into sizes and clothes for boys and clothes for girls. And then we would take all these clothes and we would pack them up into giant boxes, and Rexanne and I would take these things down to the Dominican Republic, and we would hand these clothes out to these kids, and it was just really awesome to see the love and appreciation on their faces when someone that they don't even know comes down and gives them gifts that they have absolutely no possible way to repay. And that was really the beginning of the work that we started doing down there through the feeding program and the clothing drives and stuff like that.
It makes me scared and mad at the same time. I can't imagine feeling like you don't even belong to yourself. You're somebody else's property, and I cannot imagine sitting back and not doing anything.
It was through these new relationships that we were building with other families that were in country that we became aware really of the seriousness of sex trafficking and human exploitation in the Dominican Republic. I mean, through the efforts that Rexanne and I were doing, we had come in contact with grandmothers that were raising 2 and 3 generations of her family because of the cycle of poverty and prostitution. Women in their mid-40s were raising her children and her children's children, and in many instances also raising the previous generation. But what really became apparent to us was these children in these impoverished areas are really at an extreme risk of being exploited because of the fact that they have had multi-generational prostitution in their family, and also the resources that are available to people in this area are very, very limited.
There's a phrase we hear a lot in the Dominican Republic: you know work, you know eat. The enemy of our souls uses our weaknesses in an attempt to destroy us. In the Dominican Republic, he uses poverty as a springboard to launch his attack. When you live in such a state of poverty that you can't feed your family, there's no way out, tummies are hungry, there's no work, no husband, no father, well, I guess they do what they think they have to in order to survive.
The sex trafficking industry in the Dominican Republic is fueled by several factors, probably the greatest of which is tourism. The Dominican Republic is accessible from the United States on an hour and 41-minute flight from Miami and just under 3 hours from New York. As disturbing as this sounds, men and women as well can get off work on Friday afternoon, hop on a plane, land in the Dominican Republic, and actually purchase a child for a weekend of sex and come back to work on Monday morning and no one would ever know what had happened. And I think that's appalling, and I think that's unacceptable, and I think that we, as decent, forward-thinking human beings, have a moral responsibility to do whatever we can do to make sure that that doesn't happen.
How can I sit back and do nothing when I know that there are children living these lives of daily abuse, knowing that right now adults all over the world are booking vacations to have sex with children? I mean, it's a disgusting thought. So how can I sit back and do nothing?
So hopefully at this point you've been motivated and honestly even a little bit angry, because that's what we need. We need people who are passionate about taking the steps necessary to ensure as many of these children as possible can have as normal a life as possible. And up to this point, my wife Rexanne and I have financed our humanitarian efforts in the Dominican Republic about 95% out of our own pocket. We have had some very loving and generous supporters over the years, but at the end of the day, we've really hit a wall in terms of what we're able to do with our current support base. And that's why we're doing this. That's why you're watching this video, because it is at this point that we have to have partners. We have to have people who are interested in coming on board with us, and people who are ready to say, no more, this is unacceptable, and I'm going to do everything that I can do to make sure that at least one more child doesn't have to live a life as a sex slave.
In the last few years, Jason and I have noticed an increase in the number of people God is stirring to become part of this movement. We wondered why. Why is God drawing so many people to serve in the Dominican Republic? Now I know why. It's going to take people from the outside, people who have resources, people who aren't surrounded by this delusion of hopelessness, people who aren't controlled by the sounds of their starving bodies. It's going to take people who are willing to stand up and fight, like David, against a foe mightier than anything they've ever seen. People who won't back down when faced with frightening manifestations of evil.
Hopefully, we've touched you, we've motivated you, we have awakened you to a situation that, quite frankly, is tragic and unacceptable, and hopefully you'll be moved to participate with us. I certainly hope so. My name is Jason Collins. On behalf of my wife Rexanne and on behalf of Grace International Outreach, we thank you so much for watching this video. We ask that you, at a very minimum, pray for what we're doing down there, because we certainly need your prayers. Donations and sponsorship is really the fuel that will keep this engine going, and we need that. We need that desperately. And at the end of the day, whether you give or whether you don't give, we would certainly appreciate you sharing this video, because hopefully through that action, someone else can have an opportunity to become involved in this. Thank you so very much. Have an awesome 2017, and may God bless you in everything that you do.